Yeah.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
which
you for
helps.
joining us.
Ready?
Yep, come on. Thank you for joining us at tonight's meeting, September 25th, 2024. Sorry for the technical difficulties we were just having. And everybody please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members here tonight and Kathy. Superintendent update.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 25th Board of Education meeting. I just want to make a couple remarks. For those of you who were able to join us last night, I want to thank the community for coming out to the community forum we had here at the high school. It was a lot more well attended than we anticipated. We had it originally scheduled in the LGI, which is a large group instruction room of the high school. And within minutes, we found that it was too overflow. So we relocated the location to the high school auditorium. I want to thank Mr. Kennedy, along with a ton of parents, Dr. Reggio, myself, Bill Nelfi, tech specialist, for making that flexibility and making that change immediately. So like I said, I think it was a great event. I do want to thank Legislator Jim Mazzarella, Supervisor Dan Panico, Councilwoman Dunn, and members of the Suffolk County Police Department for having that meeting with us. I think that it was a very informative meeting. It gave the community an opportunity to express their concerns, have any questions answered, and it was done in a very professional, collegiate way. So I think that it was a good way for us to kind of address some of the things that have been happening, unfortunately, in Center Merchants. And one of the things that came out of the night is that we realized that it's not just indicative of Center Merchants. It's happening in many different communities across Long Island, and we all need to be vigilant. We need to be aware of what's happening, and we need to report. It's exactly what I said in a community letter I sent to the community a couple weeks ago. If you see something, please report it, let us know so that we can address it, or that we can contact officials that can address it effectively. So once again, thank you for everyone that attended. Yes?
I didn't know about the meeting yesterday.
Oh, you did not?
I didn't get a.
Okay. It wasn't our meeting, so we didn't host the meeting.
I was gonna say,
It was hosted by Suffolk County Police Department, as was Legislator Mazzarella. We just allowed them to use our space.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I was gonna say, I didn't get-
No, it wasn't really our meeting.
Thank you.
We just accommodated them by utilizing this space. So they contacted my office a couple of weeks ago. They said, could they use our space? And we said, of course, absolutely. Because it is something that is affecting our entire community. It's affecting our teachers, affecting our students. Some of the incidents happened a little too close to our schools. So it is something that we have to address. And we have to allow, well, we didn't have to, but we felt the necessity to build that partnership with the individuals that I mentioned so that we can ensure that the questions are answered and any concerns can be allayed in an appropriate fashion coming from the individuals responsible for kind of addressing these things, all right? So we do have a couple presentations tonight. The first one is going to be led by our high school principal, Ms. Mangonia, and our assistant principal, Ms. Foreman, and of course, some students that we have present. So Ms. Mangonia?
Yeah.
Ms. Foreman?
All right, thank you. All right, good evening, welcome, thank you ahead of time, and thank you already. So just as a brief overview of what we like to do as the high school administrative team, myself and Ms. Foreman, we really like to, yes, present some great pieces of information, but part of our job as high school administrators is to help lead our students to using their voice. So although, yes, we will be speaking, we have a few kids who are also going to be speaking. So before I really dive in and let them take over, I just want to first thank everybody who participated and helped out in our homecoming this year. It was very early and it was like all hands on deck. I really do appreciate Ms. Foreman for this, because somehow she convinced all board members, Dr. Soto, myself, to take these funny pictures. So well done. Somehow she's not in a funny picture though? Nobody? Okay. Good to know for next year. But I definitely wanted to thank our Board of Ed, Dr. Soto, all of our great advisors of all of the classes who put a lot of time, parents who were building floats, and of course our students, our buildings and grounds teams, our custodial staff, our security. We really all come together for homecoming, and it's awesome to see. But again, I'm going to let Hunter and Gabby speak. So Gabby DeAngelis is our senior class president. Hunter Bernard is what grade are you in now? 11. I knew it. I knew you weren't a senior, but I remember Hunter coming in 9th grade, and to see the growth from 9th grade Hunter to today Hunter has been awesome. So I am very excited to welcome you two up. So come on up. Okay. So here, like this, right? Now here's the hard part, okay? Here's this. Behind you is everyone at home. There's the board and administrator, and here are the people.
What do I do?
Exactly.
You
got it.
Alright,
There you go.
so this is a short video, this last weekend. Do it live?
Yeah, this is actually.
Button in your hand.
Alright, we don't do it yet.
What's that there?
I know. There you go. But no.
You would think it would be good with technology if we're young.
That's cute.
So the weekend before homecoming, to kick it off, we decided the senior class to run dance, which we were very skeptical about doing because we didn't really know. We really thought 20 kids were going to show up. We did not expect 200 kids to show up. The senior class ended up raising over $1,000. We really were not expecting that at all. For Spirit Week, our most hit day was definitely Adam Sandler Day. I think every teacher dressed up, every student dressed up. It was very fun. And the pep rally, we had 2 juniors who emceed it. It was a lot of fun. The teams exchanged their gifts, pretty much it. Homecoming parade was a lot of fun too. I'm gonna bite my tongue on this one. And it was a lot of fun. A court went on the fire truck, and it was a fun time. And the bonfire was fun too. A lot of kids were there. More younger kids like it more, but a lot of high schoolers still went. And then Hunter's going to talk about the athletics.
All right, so forgive me here. My notes are on my phone, so bear with me here. All right. The main thing I want to do tonight, the main thing
I've known Miss Meyer since I was, what, 7? So it's very important to me to impress her tonight. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Hunter. I'm a junior here at St. Riches. I am the varsity goalkeeper for our soccer team here. First, I want to thank Ms. Foreman and Ms. Mangonia for letting me come here on such short notice. It was already last week they asked me to come. My brain started going on what I want to say to you guys. So here's just a brief, some brief stuff I want to say. I see Ms. Mangonia every day. It's either I walk into Ms. Mangonia's office and she's happy and she's smiling. That means she's not having a busy day. Or I walk into her office and she does not have a smile on her face. So with all these homecoming ideas that I had, I wanted to bring them to life, and I was approaching her. Everybody knows Ms. Foreman's office is that door that separates her and Ms. Mangonia's office. So I said a prayer. I said, please make Ms. Mangonia smile on her face. I walk in and smile on her face. She was actually eating this nice sandwich. It looked really, really good.
Oh, well, that's why I was like.
Anyways, long story short, we sat down. We had a very good, brief 5-minute conversation of what I wanted to do. On top of what Gabby said about the bonfire and with younger kids coming to the bonfire, that's the most important thing for me. Having young kids get involved so early and to give them something to look forward to in the future is huge for me. And with that idea I had, here in St. Riches, we have a Riches Youth Organization, MYO. There's a few camps that I did with them. I've helped Miss Cookie out a few times, and I wanted them to walk out with us at our homecoming game. Miss Mangonia got the idea approved. Mr. Doe was all for it. Some of the girls' teams walked out with the girls' varsity soccer team, and the boys walked out with us. And here in this picture, it's obviously me in my great-looking blue goalkeeper outfit that we're going to acknowledge, and also Joey Santoro. He goes by Sauce. That is our new assistant coach's son. We're walking out. The national anthem is being played, and this for me is the most important thing. I'm standing with him here. The flag is that way, and he whispers into my ear, "What's up, dude?" I'm nervous. And I said, national anthem's playing. So after the national anthem's playing, he's like, Hunter, I'm not nervous anymore because I walked out with you.
Aww.
That, for me, immediately put a smile on my face. And that just, everything that I wanted to do, I wanted to do this idea last year. I didn't really have the time. But I wanted to bring it to life this year. And that was mainly the whole thing of what I wanted to do. And I talked to some of the boys on the team after, and they said that gave them the extra grip in that big homecoming game. We had a very good crowd. A lot of teachers were there, and we got a huge 6-0 win over ESM, which was unbelievable. And it's my second passion, besides soccer, my second passion is coaching. I've done camps here and there. I have a facility that I train at, that I help out little kids. And the most important thing is for them to walk out with a smile on their face. And that's the most important thing for me here at St. Riches. We obviously get the kids involved more in the younger ages, so they know what to do in the future, and they're comfortable with having Ms. Mangonia as a principal, Ms. Foreman. They're not nervous. The seniors, they're scary. They come in, they walk into it, they're very, they adapted to the situation. And that's really the whole thing for me. And it's just that one story that really touched my heart. And to have all the kids smile in this picture in the middle, they had a great time. They were the ball boys, and just having us win that game was huge. It's all you want to hear as a typical high school kid. I would say I'm living the dream in my Hawaii house on the water. That's my dream. But I would say I'm living the dream. I'm playing soccer. We're doing very well. High school is going great so far. 11th grade year is going great. To have 2 principals with us that help you so much. Like Ms. Mangonia said, freshman year, I came in. I used to go to Floyd. I was very nervous coming in. I didn't really know what to do. Very quiet my 8th grade year, and everybody said, Hunter, join soccer. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do it. The reason why I didn't want to do it is because I didn't know anybody. And that for me is huge. I joined soccer, and I met kids now that I can call my best friends. I didn't know Gabby. Now, me and Gabby are like 2 peas in a pot with like this. I texted Gabby, I said, Gabby, can you pick me up? She's like, absolutely, I can pick you up.
I just absolutely.
That's really just it. To come in as a shy kid from Floyd, moving school districts, and having so many friends that are coming into one big home, and to call St. Riches home for me, it hits home, and this is where I want my kids to grow up. And at first, I would say, what's the wording I'm looking for here? I was nervous at first when I first transferred to St. Riches, so getting the younger kids involved is important. And that's really all I have to say.
I have to say that after all my 4 years being here, this was the biggest like different groups at homecoming. It wasn't just one group of kids. It was groups kids from every single group. Middle school kids came up too. It was just a bigger environment, I feel like, overall, especially having the elementary school football kids there. It just helped bring so much more people together.
And that's really it for me, like, to have the kids smile on their faces. And that story, I remember I told my assistant coach, and he shed a tear, actually. He was so proud of his son, but that's pretty much it. Thank you, Ms. Wonder, Ms.
Thank
Mangoni,
you.
for inviting me.
Thank you guys.
It was nice meeting you. Did I do a good job?
Always proud of you.
Always.
Always.
We'll see each other soon. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Hunter, I have to say, I love your passion and enthusiasm. I have 3 little kids at home, and what you guys are saying is totally true. Like, it means the world to them to, participate in these events, and they look up to you guys so much. So tk you for doing a great
Of course.
job.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, people at home. Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night, guys. Thank you for coming.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, thank you. Great job, guys. Just to be clear, I do smile more than you just made me see. I smile. Thank you, Gabby.
I actually was gonna talk to you about
I know. You make it look like I'm I do see you every day, multiple times. So I may not always spin my chair. I'm not gonna lie. But I think that, they did a great job of explaining what homecoming means, and they can do it more justice than we really can. So the next thing that I just want to acknowledge is we have a very, very impressive student that we want to acknowledge here tonight. So we have a student, Chris Russo, and Chris took the PSATs, and when our students take the PSATs, they get entered and they can qualify for a National Merit Scholarship. It is very rare to have students who meet this scholarship, and we have a semifinalist, one in the entire 12th grade. We have one student who made it to be a semifinalist, and that is Chris Russo. So I would like to take a moment to acknowledge him tonight. All right, so what happens now at this point is Chris goes through a little bit further of an application process. We do some stuff on our ends, and we submit some more information to see if he can make it as a finalist. But at this point, the fact that he did such a great job, I just felt like it was important for us to recognize him. Great job. I also wanted to recognize we have 2 students, Mackenzie Sweeney and Clara Tebbins, who are our all-state musician alternate honors. They both had things that they had to do tonight, so they weren't able to come. But I did want to make sure that since we had this information, that I kind of gave them a shout out. We love our music program, and we just want to kind of keep all of that going. So we can give them a round of applause. Okay, I'm gonna run brief because I love my kids, but they're, like to talk. I'm just excited to be here. So this is basically what I want to talk about as far as the high schools. One of the things that we work really hard on is providing opportunities for our kids. That's what we want to do. All different types of opportunities. So we have students that are in the IB program. We have students who are taking some IB classes, some AD classes. We have some kids that are in dual enrollment. And I actually have an alumni sitting here tonight who came in and is graduating a year early. And the reason is she got so many credits from Center Merges High School. We set her up so well. Now, I can't take full responsibility. And you did do the work yourself. You did the work yourself, but we provided these opportunities, and this is why we do it. She's a year ahead now. She went to St. Joe's. She's a year ahead looking at graduate programs. Like, this is why we do it, to give these kids these opportunities. And so it kind of is perfect that I'm up here talking about how we are growing our dual enrollment courses. So we have connections with Suffolk that go very far back. Beacon program is a great program that we've been had a connection with, but we've been growing our relationships with Stony Brook. We have a new course this year that Mr. Kazi's teaching. It's a public speaking class, which we're getting, which we have the opportunity for kids to get college credit from. We have a new relationship, a stronger one, with Farmingdale. We offer a virtual enterprise class. We also offer a few of our math classes now through Farmingdale. We have so many of our math courses at the 10, 11, and 12th grade level receiving college credit. It's really setting our kids up well once they leave high school here. And our newest class is actually through Oswego. We have an advanced EDP class that we just recently were approved for, that Mr. Spinaris is teaching. And I think it's just important to know we have our veteran teachers that are teaching these classes and going to trainings and trying to provide these opportunities. And we have our newest teachers that are coming in and saying, what can I do? I have this information, I know these professors, what can we do for our kids? So it is kind of interesting that you came and I was able to say all of that stuff. The other side of that is we don't stop at just our college courses and things like that. A few years ago, I remember we had maybe 10 kids that were going to BOCES programs, career education programs. We have almost 50 kids going this year, which is incredible. And it is setting our kids up for so much success after high school. Now, some of our kids are going on to 2 or 4 year colleges. Some of them now can work their way through their college programs because they have this certification, this license, these other opportunities. Other kids are going to go into another trade after this. Other kids are going to go into the workforce. The fact that we at Center Marches provide this array of opportunities for all of our kids to succeed is something that I pride myself in, and I just, anytime I can, kind of brag about it and show what we're doing here, I just like to do that.
Okay, so we are definitely committed to growth and collaboration. We really pride ourselves with listening to our community, and we value the feedback that we receive from parents, from students, from staff. And what we did this year, we really drove it for our academic improvement plan within our building. So we're really working on prioritizing teacher collaboration. So what we did over the summer was we looked at the schedules and we really focused in on that common planning time. We wanted to give teachers that time together. Then the next part is refocusing our professional development. So with that, we wanted to really give teachers opportunity to collaborate within their departments and give them the opportunity to refine their craft, in addition to integrate any educational changes that are coming their way. Also to give them the opportunity to align within their department and courses and establish overarching goals and common and clear goals. Now, our long-term vision is really that cross-curricular connection that we want to give them that time to collaborate as well, along with establishing and expanding our co-teaching models in both the E&L and special education, departments. So with this multi-step process, we know that it's more than just one step, right? And we really want to focus on that continuous improvement within our building.
So the high school's doing awesome. That's what I would like to say. So thank you again for your support. We're really trying to put a focus on our students, giving our teachers valued time to work with each other to really get some good curriculum in there so that our kids are geared and on track for, set up for success moving forward. So at that point, good?
Excellent.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Very nice presentation.
All right, our next presentation will be delivered by our business official, Ms. Carrie Laughlin, and it's going to look at facilities, and we're going to provide the community with an overview of some of the things that we've done over the summer, but some of the things that we're looking at, and some of the activities that we have coming up in the future. So Ms. Laughlin?
Good evening. So we're gonna, very brief, those of you that know me and have seen me present, I'm quick, so I will try to be even quicker if I can. So our goal tonight is kind of start introducing where we are with facilities and our maintenance in the buildings, an overview of what the building condition survey is and why we're required to do it. Each year we do building walkthroughs with the Board of Education administration over the summer to see what's going on, what do we need, how do we need to improve. And then we'll also kind of do a brief overview of our Health and Safety Committee, which was formerly known as the Facilities Committee, and the work that they're going to be doing this year and focusing on. So a building condition survey is required by the New York State Education Department. It's an every 5-year survey. Our architects and engineers come into the buildings and they walk through and evaluate everything, health and safety wise, structurally, academically. Are we meeting 21st century learning? The principals all fill out a very lengthy questionnaire about things going on in their buildings. What do they want to see improved in their building? So this is done. We just did this walkthrough early in August. We're waiting on that final report from our architects. In addition, the Board of Education every year before school starts has to walk through the buildings and deem them ready to be open. So we did that at the end of August, and there were some, the areas that the Board of Education is focusing on is health and safety, the maintenance that we have going on, any upgrades that have to be done, and then with all of that, how are we budgeting for these things? How are we paying for these items that we're seeing, both visibly and what we're not seeing? And a lot of those things will come up throughout the building condition survey itself as well. So this school year, some exciting things that we've already accomplished and gotten done. You may have seen if you've been in Clayton Huey, we did the APR floors. They were stripped down, finished. They're nice and shiny. They look great. The stage was also redone in there, so that job is finished. We're working on door replacements. So you may have noticed a lot of exterior doors have some rust and some damage to them. Many doors were replaced about right before I got here, so almost 7 years ago now. But there are some that still were not replaced, so we're getting quotes from a vendor on what that would look like to replace all those other doors. We do have some interior doors that have been damaged, so we're looking as well as replacing that. We've had the vendor do the walkthrough, we're just waiting on the quote for that. Tennis courts, we used our repair reserve over the summer to just do that, repair the courts. We don't have the funds to replace them as a whole, but they really did a nice job of clearing out all the cracks, filling in the cracks, repainting them, resurfacing to the best we can, and really they look almost like brand new courts. As a tennis mom, my daughter was very pleased to see it, and I don't live in the district, but I am close by, so she wouldn't ever come here to play, and now she actually doesn't mind coming at night to hit the ball around because the courts actually are now playable. Our hot water heater in the middle school, we do have a slight crack in it, so we're on order for a new hot water heater, so that is being installed as soon as that comes in. We've had some glass breakage occur. This occurs every year, whether it be weather-related, students, sports-related, whatever may be going on. As soon as that happens, we look to replace those as it becomes a safety issue. So right now we do have, I believe, 2 in this building that we're waiting on the vendor to come and give us a price, as well as replace those out. And then anything usually that you'll see, there's some holes in the wall, some patchwork that has to be done. Our crew, we have a very small staff. We have 2 maintenance guys district-wide that oversees 3 buildings, and they're spread thin because we have a lot of work to get done. But in between time, they are repatching any holes that might appear in the walls from either just use of tearing things down, hanging things on the wall, taking them back off, or even any damage that's getting done either by staff or students, even just by our crews hitting the wall with moving furniture around. So they are working to fix those things so that it's more aesthetically pleasing. While we're doing all those things that we have planned, a lot of emergency work comes up. So again, we have 2 guys that get pulled in a lot of different directions. You may have heard we've had a lot of bathroom issues, unfortunately, at the beginning of the school year. So both in middle school and high school, and then I don't know, one day it was just must have been a full moon. It was high school, middle school, and Clayton Huey all at the same time that backed up. We just had on Monday, our environmental company came in and scoped the lines here at the high school. Clayton Huey was a specific incident, inappropriate things being down the line, cleared, no issue there. It has been a continuous problem up here at the middle school. So we did have them come and scope the lines on Monday. We are waiting the final report from them on that, as well as the faculty room in the high school, which we've not had an issue with for many, many years. But it does turn out the preliminary report on that, there is a blockage about 80 feet down that line. And it just took years to finally build up to start backing it up. So that bathroom has been closed. Tomorrow, plumbing company is coming in to clear that line out so that we can reopen it and have no more issues in the faculty room. I literally just got the email, this man going at 7 p.m. that they're coming, so after tomorrow, that bathroom will be back open and up and running. In addition, we were just notified some vandalism that occurred to the scoreboard out on the soccer field, all the way out in the back. The whole thing ripped up, electrical wires torn out. Again, emergency repairs that we have to do. So we have the electrician coming in to, first of all, make it safe before they can replace parts and everything with regard to that. And then the other is we have students that require air conditioning, ventilated, well-ventilated rooms beyond what we already have. So we, I believe, have 5 or 6 air conditioning units that have to be installed in the high school. Our guys are the ones that do that. You've seen our windows. They're not as typical as a home that you open your window, you put it in, shut the window, and you move on. We have to secure it. We have to make sure it's safe and that nobody can break into it. So there is quite a bit of work that is involved in that. So October 3rd, 4th, when we're closed, is when my guys will be doing that work. So while we have a lot of these planned activities and work that we want to get done, a lot of emergencies come up that then distract them and pull them from what we had scheduled for them to do. So we do ask for the community, the staff, to be patient as we are limited in staff, and we do outsource a lot of the work that we have to get done. The auditorium, the big conversation, since I've been here for 6 years, but even bigger as it's gotten worse over the past couple years. We are looking at this. The board is looking at it. How can we kind of fix it since we were not successful with the bond last year? So we are speaking with a vendor. We have a rough quote right now to reupholster all the seats at about $300,000. Again, an unbudgeted item. How do we pay for this? The lighting replacement, we just received a cost, some lighting that is failing. It's about $22,000. Curtains, to replace the front curtains, is about $40,000. And our soundboard, we just had some work done, which was just a couple $1,000s, but that has been fixed. So again, how do we do this? It's not a budgeted item. It's quite costly. What are we not doing in order to do this? We have a repair reserve that is in place. That is something that we could potentially tap into. It's a decision the board has to make going forward. Is that what we want to do? I am gathering all the information, what's aidable, what's not aidable. If you do a repair, it's not an aidable project. If you do a full replacement, it is. You don't want to throw good money at bad. So we're kind of piecemealing all that together. I'm working with the state education department, our architects. We have another vendor coming in to give us a quote on total seat replacement and kind of piecemeal the auditorium project to see what we can get done in the next few months to make it a much more pleasant environment to be in.
And none of those costs include painting or the floor?
That's just the
yeah,
seats.
Yeah, the
Yes.
seats and, yeah, the lighting, the curtains.
So we do have what's called the Health and Safety Committee, formerly known a few years back as the Facilities Committee. The legal name for it by SED is Health and Safety Committee, which is why we changed the name. The committee is open to all. You don't have to necessarily sign up to say, hey, I want to be on your committee. Meetings are on the calendar. Please feel free to join us. The meetings do take place in the evening, typically on a Wednesday night at 6 p.m. in district office. The purpose of it is to discuss the health and safety items within the district, anything that is going on with any particular projects we have. They also look to make recommendations to the Board of Education with regards to the health and safety issues. And then what we're looking at doing this year, the big project, is to review that building condition survey report that we're waiting from the architects. That report comes in a 5-year plan. We take that, what the architects deem to be 5 years, and we kind of start moving things around based on what our community feedback is, board feedback, and what we're starting to see happen to some items. So the boilers last time were on a priority 5. They've moved up now because we're now 5 years out. So those most likely move up in priority as they are going to start failing sooner than later. So with that, out of that whole review with the committee, we'll develop a 5-year capital plan, which will be presented in public to the board and adopted. And then we'll develop kind of a proposal for repairs. We kind of take all of our different funding sources, general fund, the capital reserve, the repair reserve, and what has to be done with bond work. So that all happens throughout that committee work that we'll be doing over the course of this year.
Karen,
Yes.
people do sign up for Health and Safety Committee, and I guess all the committees then, there are benefits, right? They get.
Right, if you're signed up, if we have you as an official member of the committee, you will get the emails in advance with the agenda in advance to say, hey, just a reminder, we have a meeting on this night at this time, and here's the agenda items. Otherwise, the meetings are on the calendar, so please, if you want to sign up, there is a link on the website that you can go ahead and do so, and you'll be sure to get those communications from me directly. Yes, thank you, Marcus. So our next step is to review the Health and Safety Committee charge, allocate budget for the capital items that we need to get done, schedule the maintenance for our internal repairs that our guys can do, and then we'll continue to update the whole community at board meetings with where we're at with the work that both the committee's doing as well as what's going on in our buildings from our team and what we see happening throughout. Questions from the board?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, this is not one of the most exciting presentations you're going to receive. It is definitely something that we look at in terms of what are we doing in the district. When we look at the work of the district, we have to look at academically, we have to look at the instructional program, we have to look at what are we doing with staffing, financial concerns, we have to look at buildings and grounds, how are we ensuring that maintenance and enhancement of our facilities as well. So one of the things that we do as a district, as a superintendent, working with the Board of Education, is looking at developing goals for the year. We, as a team, we have to have goals. We have to have an approach that we are going to sort of tackle the new school year in terms of how are we going to prioritize our spending, how we are going to prioritize our staffing, how are we going to even prioritize our time? Because some of the things we do take up a tremendous amount of time, energy into looking at the development and implementation of things that we do. So, thank you. So we did engage in a process. When I say we, myself, the administrative team with the Board of Education, we looked at developing 5 goals for the Board of Education, which is very customary, and developing them in such a way that is called SMART goals, which I'm going to look at in a moment. But we did have a 5-step process that we engaged in. So when I was first appointed as the interim superintendent on August 6th, which I'm probably never going to forget that date, but August 6th, 2024, I did send the Board of Education a survey. So in the survey, it had preliminary questions in terms of what did they think was successful in the district? What did we do well as a district? What are some of the areas of concern that they have? And what are areas that they feel that we need to prioritize? So I took the results of the survey. I gathered those results. We had a board retreat on August 26th, where we looked at some of the things that we're doing as a district and prioritizing some of the things that we're doing. And Dr. Berry had a great idea to develop a brain map, where one of the suggestions that she had was that every board member will come to the meeting with 5 priorities. And we spent some time looking at those 5 priorities. And what was nice to see is that the ideas that most of the board members had coincided with one another. So we took those ideas and we created 5 preliminary Board of Education goals. And then as a result of that, I drafted SMART goals, which we're going to look at in a moment. Now just go back for 1 second, because I just want to explain what SMART goals are. So when you look at a goal, the development of a goal, you have an overarching goal. Then the SMART goals itself is almost like an action plan as to ways that you think you can fulfill the accomplishment of that goal. So it looks at 5 different components. The first one is specific. What are you going to do specifically within that sub-goal that is going to address the overarching goal? The next one is measurable. How are you going to measure whether or not you are successful in the task that you have in terms of that goal? The third is attainable. Can we do it? Do we have the resources in hand to do it? This fourth one is relevant. How is it relevant to the overarching mission or the goals of the district as a whole? And the last one is time bound. When do you think you're going to complete it? Generally, when you create a goal, you try to create it for the year. You try to create it in such a way that it would be accomplished at some point during the year. Sometimes it could be accomplished in October, which I review one in a moment. Sometimes it could be January, sometimes it could be in June, sometimes it's ongoing. Because the work that you do, when you do reform work to a district, even to a business, it can take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. Shouldn't take, to really see significant sustainable change. So that's the format of the small goals. No, thank you. And I could have done that, I'm sorry. So these are the goals itself, and I'm going to apologize because it's very lengthy. So you want me to start? Okay. So the first page, yeah, I know this. I apologize beforehand. It's a lot of words, and I'm going to provide the board who had the goals a week before. They had time to review it. They had time to dissect it. Provide me with feedback. Provide me with suggested revisions, which have been implemented. But the purpose of this presentation is that when the Board of Education adopts goals, it has to be done in public. They have to have an opportunity to present it to the community. They have to have an opportunity to discuss it in public. It's not something that can be done in some of the things that we do in the exec session. It's not something that can be done via email, via text. It has to be done in public. Okay? So this gives just an overview of like what I said a moment ago in terms of what the SMART goal is. And these are the actual goals. So the first goal that we looked at is student achievement. And this is something that Ms. Magonia and Ms. Foreman looked at in terms of how are we ensuring that students are attaining success within the classrooms and attaining success for themselves in terms of self-esteem as well. So the first goal reads the board, and I am going to read this because there's no way you can see this. I apologize. The Board of Education is committed to providing all students with academic improvement opportunities that support multiple pathways for success and growth. So when you look at that particular goal, you're looking at it from the perspective of now these are subcomponents of the goal as to how we believe we can accomplish that goal. So I'm going to give it a sample of sort of one, and then I'll try to, go through each one in a very cursive way. Because like I said, this is a 14, 15-page document, and if I really look at each particular goal, it will be a 3 or 4 hour presentation. I definitely don't want to do that to you. I don't want to do that to myself. So, okay. So the first one is conduct a thorough review of our instructional programs. The specific goal itself. You have a question? I'm sorry.
We're just trying to make some copies so people can
Oh, I apologize. Yes.
not have to use this quickly.
Yes.
I have another one if anybody wants.
I have one too. So we have another one as well. Sorry. Anyone else? Everyone's good?
I got no more, so. But
I'm hanging.
Okay, so as I said a moment ago, the first one is conduct a thorough review of our instructional programs. The specific component of that goal is in collaboration with staff, the administrative team will conduct a review of each program used in their building. This is a charge that we had as a team because there are things that we do district-wide. Some of the things are very successful, some of the things may not be. So we have to evaluate our program to determine the success of them and determine the impact on every student that it touches. So the measurables are calendars will be created to outline the review process. Feedback summaries will be created to record analysis process. And the achievable is how we're going to accomplish it is the utilization of professional peers, exactly what Ms. Foreman and Ms. Magonia looked at. And I commend you in terms of what you did with your master schedule. It was a genius in terms of looking at how teachers teach the same courses and how they could work together and collaborate and look at strategies and look at lessons, look at assessments, and how they can work together to kind of improve their own instruction. So looking at faculty meetings and dedicated professional development opportunities will be utilized. Curriculum writing hours will be utilized as well. The relevance is we are going to ensure relevance of our instruction program and impact the students. And that in terms of time bound, it is ongoing. That is something that is going to take us a lot of time to review. It's not something that's going to be done in a couple of months. It's a complete review of our entire program and to determine how it is finding success and impact upon students.
Here's another question. Can we put in here somewhere, I guess by measurable, the feedback summaries that will be created to record analysis process, like a time frame, like how frequently we'll be getting that feedback?
We can. So we could put it quarterly. We could put it semester-wise because you want to give the teachers and administrators enough time to have enough data to review. So we could definitely so the part of this process too is exactly what is happening. The Board of Education asking questions and providing suggestions in terms of how we can make these go stronger and how we can make it more impactful for the teachers that we're working with. All right, so does anyone have any questions regarding the format of a SMART goal? Board? No? Okay. So the second one is create reachable scores for New York State assessments. We are looking at assessments as a whole, despite the fact that New York State Education Department might be looking at, in terms of exit criteria for high school students, a very different way. It hasn't been implemented completely yet. The Blue Book the commission, the Blue Ribbon Commission is looking at that, is looking at ways to modify, give students different pathways, different exit pathways. Nothing has been solidified yet, so we are still waiting to see what the results will be. But for now, we are still looking at assessments as a way to determine if students are really specifically learning what the courses are teaching them in class. So it is something that's still part of our process.
Ricardo, on that one?
Yes.
1B, the way it's written, it looks like it's a little bit restrictive. I think when we finally develop those measurables, we should look at a wider set of scores.
Okay.
We have things, obviously in New York State, the Regents APIB info, there are the state proficiency measurements that we could use, we could look at potentially. There are also internal measures, so we have graduation rates for different types of diplomas. We have our own grades on courses and things like that. I just want to make sure that we're considering everything that's possible out there to use as a metric and choose the ones that are most appropriate for us.
That's a very valid point, Marcus. So there's a couple of things we would obviously look at. So we would look at exit criteria in terms of summative assessments such as Regents examinations, 3 to 8 assessments for those that do participate in assessments, the AP exams, IB exams, but also cross-referencing them to how students are doing internally in terms of their final grades. Is there a correlation? You really should not see more than a 10-point differential in terms of how a student does in a particular course versus what that student receives in exit criteria as a summative assessment in terms of the Regents examination. So that is a valid point. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at graduation rates. We also are looking at the possibility of conducting, which we looked at in the past, surveys for post-secondary surveys for how students do once they leave us, how well they do in college. Because that is a good indicator as to how well we prepared them as a school district. Did they find success? And success can be measured in a lot of different ways. Success can be measured academically. Did they stay on the same track that they're on in terms of the, yes?
I just
Ms.
want to say
Musa?
my daughter did actually take the nursing course and is doing nursing now.
Excellent. Excellent. That's a success story.
Thank you,
Thank you, Ms. Musa. Thank you. So those are things that we're looking at. Those are things that we're looking to implement because that is a true indicator of the success of the school district in terms of how well a student does when he or she leaves us, and do they stay on the same pathway that they're on? Do they have to take remediation courses when they go to college? Things like that.
Also, that one, Ricardo, I think it's important that we establish some comparatives. So we have these scores, especially from the state, they're statewide. Do we compare ourselves to the state average? Long Island, Suffolk County, peer schools around us? You know, it's important how you look at that from year to year. Things change, and it gives us a little bit of an idea what cohort are we trying to measure against, right?
Absolutely. So when you do compare the data, you do look at that. You look at the state average, you look at Suffolk County average too. You look at the average of similar school size, similar demographics. You look at schools that would be comparative to us in terms of even socioeconomic comparisons as well, because that's a factor that you have to factor in. So it is definitely something that we will compare. It is an extensive analysis process that we will begin to do, but it is part of that overall picture in terms of looking at how students are doing and what we need to do as a system to improve the process and improve the product that we get at the end of 13 years of education.
Right. In the end, we want to have the most relevant, measurable targets and not 50 goals, scores that we're trying to meet, because that gets unmanageable.
And that becomes the issue too. You have to be grounded in terms of what you're looking at and not looking at these 50 data points, because it can get, I love data, I love Excel, I love looking at this information, but it can become somewhat overwhelming. And sometimes looking at it from that vantage point, you have to be very selective of what you're looking at. So that's a very valid point, Marcus. Anything else before I go to beyond 1B? Because there's a lot more than one.
I understand.
I'm teasing, Marcus. So 1C is ensure alignment of guidance programs, academic achievement goals. I talked about that a moment ago, and I have to say that I have to give secondary administrators a lot of credit in terms of looking at and working with our guidance counselors and ensuring that their efforts are aligned with what we want to see in terms of the product of our students. So there's a lot of things that guidance counselors do. Not only do they create schedules, they meet with students, they meet with parents, they build relationships, they build contacts with their families to ensure that the kids are not just doing well day to day, or that they have a comprehensive and realistic post-secondary plan, but that they are checking in with them. So we're looking at the possibility of how do we increase contact time, and that's student to parent contact time as well. So we are going to look at, we're going to conduct a comparison in terms of what are they doing now and how can we improve? And what does that look like? Is it 10%, 15, 20% more contact time? Are they meeting predominantly defined guidance counselors? They spend a lot of time with the juniors and seniors. How are we going to increase that time for 9th graders, for 10th graders? How are we going to make those meetings meaningful? How are we going to encourage more pushing? So what we looked at, and this is something we talked about at the last meeting, about the possibility of adding another layer of supporting guidance. Whether it's a guidance chairperson, whether it's a guidance coordinator, we are still in the process of working with that and working through that to look at what that looks like for us. Because we realized when we lost an individual that worked with us for 19 years, Ms. Courtney Fagan. One of the reasons she exited the Southern School District is because of the guidance component. Not because she didn't like guidance, but it is a lot of work. So we're trying to find another layer of support that would ensure that all of the things that we identified here, it's going to be done and it's achievable and it's time bound. So we believe that the preliminary steps will be completed by June of this year. So what I mean by that is that I believe that we will have enough data to make a determination as to what we need to do to improve contact time. What do we need to improve to ensure that we have an understanding of what students are doing once they leave us? Any questions? Yes.
Is anything being looked at like the elementary level as well? Because I mean, a lot of this, I know it's further down, but we're looking for post-secondary, but we want our students to be prepared prior to high school. We want them to be confident. We want them to be reading and writing and knowing their math at a level where they can go to IB, go to secondary. We're already taking college courses. So I see you have like provide greater communication with parents and community members, alignment with staff in your relevant column, but really it needs to be looked at the elementary level.
Yeah.
So-
I think there's a lot of elementary parents who feel like they're not sure. They don't know what a reading level is, and I think it starts there too.
That's the foundation, it starts there.
I couldn't agree more. So we're doing a lot of work at the elementary level. One, we did add a .4 that we had last year. We added a dedicated guidance counselor at a .4 to the elementary school. We also increased the mental health support at the elementary school. So we added another 3 days a week of additional mental health support to the elementary school. Yeah, we have actually added a new school psychologist. We made a new school psychologist. That's a mental health support. This was Mr. Music.
I thought it was a
No.
class.
So in addition to that, some of the things that we're doing. Oh, Lynch, I'm sorry. I forgot you.
It's easier.
Okay, it is easier.
Yeah.
So we did add, and we are continuously adding things to ensure that that articulation in terms of the conversation begins at the elementary level. Because I couldn't agree more that that is something that has to happen at the elementary, continue at the middle school, and continue as they move to high school. So that articulation conversation has to happen at the elementary school. And in terms of report cards, in terms of giving students a good understanding of how they're doing in class and giving parents an understanding, we are committed to having a finalized report card at the elementary this school year that will be linked to our e-school system. That would be, that will provide parents with immediate feedback in terms of how the students are doing, increasing communication in that particular area. So you mentioned reading level. We are looking at ensuring that our reporting system includes all those fundamental components that parents need to have so that they can be partners with us to support the work that we're doing at the elementary level.
And or plan B.
Hmm?
And or plan B.
Yes, yes, that is correct.
I want to say something, but my daughter said, put my hand down. So-
No, please, don't put your hand up. It's
I'm just
fine.
kidding. I was cracking a joke. I just wanted to speak for a real quick second. I'm not the sharpest guy when it comes to, college and education and all that stuff. But I'll tell you, I reached out to Miss Mangoni when my daughter was going through this journey because I didn't know what to do. So I was kind of in a really big panic state. Like, where do you go? How do you apply? What do you what's the process? I didn't really know a whole lot, So I reached out to Ms. Mangoni, and she spent an incredible amount of time with us. And then passed us to Ms. Marino, who set up a meeting and gave us hours of her time. Hours of her time, and coached me. And I said, in my notes, I took 10 or 15 pages of handwritten notes because I am a good listener. So when you speak, I remember a lot of things that you say, and I can quote a lot of them back, but I didn't know where to go. It was amazing how it changed the journey for us as a family, for my daughters. It was incredible. So if there's anything in the school that's important, as we talk about priority, labor is critical. I could sit in a ripped chair, no disrespect. I could wear an extra jacket if the boiler's not working. But your people are everything, because people like me counted on it, and I got a home run from the school because of it, right? It is really paramount, because a lot of the parents, maybe they won't say it. They would say, man, I'm struggling, but they would raise their hand.
Sure.
So when I called Miss Mangoni, she's like, hey, listen, come in, first of all. Can we set up a meeting? We didn't. We counseled. And she's like, here's what we're going to do. Here's the next steps. Mapped it out. And then I called her 8 minutes later and said, can you repeat half that I didn't remember? That's just the way I am. I'm an old school Gen Xer, So I've learned over the years raising these girls. But it was paramount, the support that I received. So I just thought I'd share that. When you talk about guidance, it's almost could be a little higher up on the list, just in my head.
I appreciate that. And I did not come to say anything you just said.
I didn't even know they were gonna be.
I didn't know.
I'm not gonna lie, I
We're
didn't
here for
even know they were
total
gonna be.
separate
You paid them.
We need to know, people, if they're here, they need to understand the value
Yes, no.
of being engaged and involved in the kids' school
Agreed.
journey.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be the sharpest guy. You just got to be passionate about the kids' success and be a good advocate.
Yes.
And that's what I was, an advocate. Ms. Mangoni will tell you, because I'm sure some of the calls may not have been the best for her, because I was advocating for my daughters and making sure they got every drop of juice out of every squeeze the school could provide.
And you should. And
And you've done a great job.
thank you.
Great job.
And we really appreciate that.
And I'm talking much, but.
No, it's fine.
If I could say
Perfectly
one more
fine.
thing, I was in school, and I was so close to the staff in the high school and the middle school. This is my first educational meeting. I'm shocked that I missed them for so many years, and I apologize. Because I'm looking at this stuff. You guys are so detailed. The work you put in is ridiculous. And you don't ask for anything. You don't receive the recognition you deserve. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. That's very nice.
So I think it's hard because we always hear about post-secondary stuff. We always hear about secondary. As a high school teacher, I can tell you the elementary school teachers are like, what about us? Right?
Yes.
And it is a typical thing. Why? Because if we don't find those gaps early enough, high school gets that much tougher.
Yeah.
And then we're advocating too late in the game. And if we don't find reading levels early enough, then we're advocating later. And then we're also talking about a social emotional issue that develops later, right?
And when you look at, region scores, I'm a high school teacher as well, when you look at region scores, if you look to see where they were in middle school and elementary
Correct.
school,
Yeah.
often there's a correlation. So looking at those scores are great at the high school level, once they've already passed beyond the tree, but what happened in middle school, what happened in elementary school?
Agreed.
CVAS, when in the middle school, how did we then?
So-
So I just think,
Yeah,
I
so
appreciate everything, obviously, but
No, no,
I have to make sure I
so
answer my
part-
question, so I'm my due diligence.
Absolutely.
No, but part of this conversation with student achievement, just so you know, behind doors when we're all talking, is about closing those gaps and closing them early. See, not everybody has an advocate.
Mhm.
Data can tell us where the gaps are, so then we can help the parents that don't know. Or maybe the kids that don't have the parents to find that support.
Sure.
So, and sometimes it is hard, because if someone doesn't come with an email or a phone call or barging through a door, that kid may just sit back and they might not know. So part of student achievement, when we're talking as a group and as a whole and listening to everybody, that includes that elementary school level, that middle school level, which is actually overstepped. We usually go elementary to high school, if you ever look at that, right? Middle school is never always hammered in either at times. But middle school is one of the toughest runs because these kids' schedule changes. They're going from class to class. The rigor gets more difficult. And then they just sit there or they're not sure what to do. So from a K through 12 perspective, and sometimes even pre-K, because we deal with pre-K perspective, our goal is to find those gaps, but then also make sure that we're ensuring services are there to achieve the student achievement and close that gap for kids, hopefully.
So that's an excellent point, Brian, thank you. So we are looking at strengthening our identification process initially. Looking at students that do have, as Mrs. Henry suggested, gaps that we may not notice. So gaps, and so looking at historical data is important because you're finding you're looking at how did they perform at middle school, at elementary, and what are the gaps that we missed? What are the things that we didn't see? What are the things that we didn't identify for whatever reason? Sometimes students perform well in elementary, middle school, sometimes things happen with their family. Sometimes there are conditions as to why they have difficulties when they enter high school. So we need to identify that, and looking at historical data will give us at least an idea. Is this something that we just never pick up? Is this a new trend? Is this something that happened with the child's life? This is why this particular piece, in terms of creation of contact time calendars that will be compared to previously used calendars, is so important. Because we're trying to increase contact time with guidance counselors, with students and families, so that we can have those conversations. So we can look deep into a child's life, have a connection with the family, have a connection with the student, and make a determination as to what remediation plan we need to put in place to ensure that that child finds success at the school level. All right, so the next is develop strong instructional alignment between grades and of course the buildings. We are looking at ensuring that all of our departments get together, that they have conversations in terms of what they're teaching, how they're teaching it, looking at grading expectations, looking at the time frame of a unit, the time frame of lessons. How are they preparing students, and what methodology in terms of instructional methodology that they're using to ensure that students attain the information and not just the information, but the skill set. So there's two components of instructional program. One, there's skill building, which is predominantly at the elementary level, and then there's content-driven instruction, which is more secondary, but skill piece has to be infused within as well. So when we're looking at that, you have to make sure that the instruction is aligned across the entire district and across the entire grade to ensure that when students leave a particular grade, they're leaving attaining the same skill base and the same content. So that's the work that we're going to do that pretty much is summarized in 1D. Once again, it is a lot of wording. I'm sorry, I'm going to.
So may I?
Yes.
I would love to see benchmarks for students per grade level with exit outcomes so that we know where they would have to be able to be leaving grade levels. So we can see what they don't have if we're going up from second to third grade, third to fourth. So if we can somehow over the time break down those actual benchmarks.
We can. We would have to develop, and we do have, we have internal assessments that we utilize to ensure that students are at the place they should be at particular benchmarks, or particular periods within the school.
I guess to put it what they should know and be able to do from a parent perspective. So they feel confident when the kid moves on to a grade level.
And this is where the communication piece is so important, because we have to enhance that. We have to enhance the communication with parents. We have to enhance the communication with students in terms of student feedback. So we are working collectively as an administrative team with the Board of Education to ensure that that communication piece is paramount, because we don't necessarily want to find ourselves in a situation where parents are questioning us regarding where their child sits in a particular academic area. Parents should know this, and we're working towards that. It is going to take us a little time, but like I said, the elementary has been charged with developing a comprehensive report card. We do have something at the secondary complex. We are looking at providing more feedback with the system we have in place with each school ensuring that our teachers at the secondary complex provide more feedback in terms of how students are performing on a quarterly, weekly, bi-weekly basis.
And also something to that effect for the elementary school as well.
Yes, so that's,
Sorry,
Yeah,
I was just thinking
yeah.
as you're talking, could there be a second, parent-teacher, conference at the elementary school, later in the year? When they've actually worked with the student for a longer period of time and can provide, December is great, but by the time December comes, you still have another, 5-6 months. And
so a second parent-teacher conference.
just towards the end of the year, so
Okay.
that when our students leaving, I have an idea, we spoke in the middle of the year, where are we now? I know we have a report card, but all elementary report cards are pretty outdated. It doesn't really give you a good understanding of my student in that classroom. A lot of elementary school students, when they come home, they don't tell you what happened in school. You read with them, they read, I don't know, I'm just thinking that might be, or maybe just the very early kindergarten, first one too. Early on, so that reading, writing, math, all of those real foundational skills, because when they take those Regents exams, we all know it's a reading test now, right?
Sure.
It's not, math is reading, it's all reading.
Agreed.
And I'm just thinking that early on, if they had an opportunity at the end of the year to speak with that teacher, the teacher can give suggestions for the summer, what they can do. We could offer
We
a
could-
summer program, I don't know, just thinking.
We could definitely look at that. I mean, one of the things we're gonna say, they are contractual. You're a teacher, you know.
that.
There are contractual obligations that we have. So there are things that are built within the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement with the Center Richards Teachers Association, that's already fixed. So is that something that we could look towards? We are in the process of renegotiating the CMTA contract. They signed a 1-year extension. That could be something that we could discuss with them, because I do think it's a good idea. But-
We could just see something informal, even before, where the teacher, I know again, it's something the teacher has to do, but, reading level suggestions, strengths, weaknesses. I'm just thinking so that at that point, it could be connected between parent and home, the parent can then work with that student.
Aren't they working on that report card?
Yeah.
To have that information?
So the report card should be comprehensive enough to provide that. But what you're asking for, so the elementary works on trimesters. So it gives 3 report cards throughout the school year versus the secondary that has a quarterly for benchmark points. So we can look at, and we are looking at incorporating a lot of the information that you're suggesting. So
Parents should also know if they ever want to have a meeting with a teacher, they can do so at any time. They just need to make a phone call and
Agreed.
schedule that. I think sometimes parents are hesitant to do that, because they feel all sorts of ways and not wanting to bother anybody, but they can do that. Parents always have that option.
and
It seems naive, but a lot of parents just didn't know it. I was one of them. I didn't realize the resources were available. Once I tapped into Miss Mangonia, I was like, whoa. And then we took full advantage of it, and we did everything they said, word for word, apply early, get this done. Show them early, all the tips, the little tips. We took full advantage of every one of the tips. We went to every count, we did everything they said, and it worked out flawless for them. So we just don't know.
And as a teacher, I'm a teacher as well, it's sometimes, if a parent reaches out, you're more than happy to have that conversation or that meeting, but when you have, I have 150 students, so it's not always as easy to reach out, of course you try, but, and you do the best that you can, but if a parent reaches out, you respond right away, at least I do, and, I will call them or schedule a meeting if they prefer, but parents don't always realize that they do have that ability, so, at open house, I make that known. Reach out to me anytime, and I think that parents just need to be aware that it is normal and it is okay to reach out to your teacher, to your teacher, and schedule a meeting.
Maybe that could be on the report card.
it's,
By all means, reach out,
Yes.
contact the principal.
so we are communicating.
There's a comment.
We are
I'm not super
contact
sure.
the principal.
No, I understand. But that is a valid point. So right now, we're talking to the entire community. If you do have concerns, please reach out to your child's teacher or teachers. Reach out to the administrative team, reach out to myself, and find out exactly what's going on. We can always schedule a meeting. We schedule team meetings all the time with parents that at the secondary complex would meet with all of their teachers and find out on the moment feedback in terms of how a child is doing academically, behaviorally, whatever the case may be. So that option is always open to every parent in the community at any time.
And we also have to just look at our home instruction model, making sure that aligns so a kid can transition back into school
Sure.
flawlessly or close to flawlessly compared to like 3 weeks behind.
So,
That would be part of
so
that.
the home instruction model is two particular processes. One is that we do have families that do choose to homeschool their child. We do have students that are home because of medical reasons, whatever the case may be. So we do work as a team to ensure that seamless transition. In some cases, it's a lot more seamless than others. I mean, there are a lot of components that you have to factor in to ensure that that transition for the child back to school is as seamless as possible. 1E, and I do apologize. I know this is a long presentation. Ensure that the district's professional development plan enhances instructional practices and student growth. So every year we develop a professional development plan for the district. We're looking at our goals as a district. We're looking at our strengths and our weaknesses to ensure that we are developing learning opportunities for our teachers to enhance their practice and to enhance their instruction for student performance in the classroom. And sometimes the performance is not just academic. Sometimes it could be self-esteem. Sometimes it could be social-emotional. It could be environmental. So these are things that we are looking at every single year to ensure that our plan is reflective of the goals and the strengths and weaknesses of our district as a whole. All right, that was goal 1. Okay.
How many goals we have?
5.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got-
That's okay,
I'm
Miss
going to sick child. Good night.
Have a good night.
I'll catch you next time.
Okay. So goal number 2, facilities, maintenance, and improvement. The Board of Education is dedicated to the maintenance and enhancement of the facilities and grounds of the Center Richard School District. We sort of had a presentation this evening by Ms. Laughlin. We sort of talked about a lot of these things. So the first one is conduct administrative building condition walkthroughs. So as Ms. Laughlin mentioned, the Board of Education is obligated to do a condition walkthrough at the beginning of the school year to ensure that the buildings are ready to receive students for instruction. In addition to that, this year alone, I believe that we conducted 3 total because we did them at different times. So we are planning as a Board of Education, as an administrative team, to conduct routine walkthroughs of the building. To look at how well the building is, not for instructional purposes, just looking at the facilities as a whole. Because we have received some concerns in the past that maybe our facilities are not what they should be in terms of the upkeep. So we want to make sure, and we're not playing gotcha with not looking at particular performance, but we're looking at accountability. Everyone has a job in the district, and everyone is responsible for fulfilling the duties and responsibilities associated with that job. So that's the purpose of it. Great facilities accountability measurements, I kind of talked about that. One of the things I do have to give credit to Mr. Thode this year. He created a Google document that is a Google form that allows teachers and staff members to put in live repair requests, and it logs it for us, and it shows us when the repairs were completed by our maintenance staff. But once again, as Ms. Laughlin mentioned, we have 2 staff members for the entire district. So just keep that in mind, and when we're having some of the issues that we discussed, such as the plumbing issues, it does kind of take them away from the other responsibilities that they have.
Ricardo?
Yes, Marcus.
2A and 2B I'm kind of struggling with.
Okay.
They seem a little bit low to me. I can't tell if they're actually 2 items or 1 item.
Okay.
So, the measurables are monthly tracking sheets, and then the next achievable column says building condition survey used as a baseline. Building condition surveys every 5 years. It's
Yep.
big things. It's not clogged toilet bowls.
No, it's not. It's not.
Roof. So if the roof was leaking last month, it's leaking next month. We don't need to do a walkthrough again to look at those kind of items.
Those are things that you're not going to look.
Right.
Those are definitely things that we're not going to see.
I think we need to reword these to clarify actually what each one is.
Okay.
We can create a tracking sheet, that's fine, but if it just duplicates the building condition survey, it's not helpful. If it's more maintenance items, that's fine, that we want to do frequent walkthroughs on and track those things. But for me, I'm struggling to see how these are differentiated.
So the building condition survey will identify things in categories. You've seen them before, Marcus. where they're looking at major things that they feel that we have to do. And I'm gonna be honest with the entire community now. There are things that we could do internally. There's a basic repairs that we could do. Some things we cannot do because they're cost prohibitive. That has to be looked at from the perspective of developing a capital bond, where hopefully we'll have support. And as Lachlan correctly identified, we had 2 proposed bonds last year and they both failed, unfortunately. So we have to look at things that we can do that we can't do. So those are the things during the building walkthroughs that we're not gonna see, because you are correct. We're not gonna look at the boilers. We know that we have to have them replaced. We're not gonna look at the roofs because we know that has to be replaced. We're not looking at the driveways. We're not looking at the sidewalks because we know we have to replace them too. And they're not replacements or they're not repairs that we internally can do. So I want to stress that there are certain things that are just cost prohibitive that we cannot do based on the budgetary constraints that we have. We have a 2% tax cap that we have to abide by every single year. We have contractual obligations that we have to abide by. So there are some things that, like I said, we cannot do that we're not going to see in the building walkthrough. So that is correct. So in the building walkthrough, we're looking at the cleanliness of the building. We're looking at did we identify certain minor repairs that we had planned that our building maintenance staff will repair, and did they repair? Those are the type of things that I think we will be looking for.
Right, which sounds like 2B, those are maintenance or repair items, but we talk about walkthroughs in 2A. So that's why I think they're muddled. I think
Okay, I can combine that. I see your point. Because when I looked at this, I was looking at in terms of accountability measurements, which will help us with the building walkthroughs, which will complement the work that we're doing as we're walking through the buildings. Because the accountability measurements will be the Google Forms, will be the conversations, will be the meetings with our team to ensure that the priorities that we identify and the work that needs to get done, it is getting done in a timely fashion.
Maybe the building condition survey becomes part of the smart, like that SMART goal line. Because we're taking the building condition survey, we have to look at the building condition survey to see what we can do. So maybe that becomes the title of the SMART goal, and then the what we need to do, the achievable, and all that other stuff comes from the
Okay.
condition survey.
I get-
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
I can look at
the
that.
other-
Okay.
The create facilities accountability measurement is the one way we would take Mr. Thode's Google form, take a look and see what's on there. One, what is achievable that we can do within our capital reserves and repair budget, but then also what is being done, so we can see what's being done versus not being done, and then how can we aid and help with that support.
To support it. Okay, I could definitely revise these. I will during the next
It's a quick
maclamation.
fix. It's a quick fix on that.
The next, determine if reserves can support minor maintenance repairs, and this is something that Ms. Lachlan is looking at our reserves to determine what can we do. She kind of spoke to it when we're looking at the auditorium. We do realize that the auditorium is in really, really bad repair, disrepair, and it is something that we need to do. It is something that is a showcase of our district. It is constantly used. It's used for concerts. It's used for grade assemblies. It is constantly used throughout the school year. So how can, yes,
Just a quick question. We know how many seats are in there?
617.
So it's
Yeah.
$500 a chair.
A little less. So our reupholstering is less than that. No, it adds up. It definitely adds up. It's a lot. The initial quote that Ms. Lachlan mentioned, it's roughly for the seats itself about $250,000. Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It really is. It definitely does need it. So when we moved the event last night from the LGI, which is a much better environment in terms of the upkeep of the look of the seats, and moved them to the auditorium, that was one of the first things that a lot of community members put on Facebook.
It's terrible.
It is. There's no, and there is no other way of describing it. Yeah, and our kids, our community, they deserve that. They really do. So we are going to look at possible ways to try to improve it, as Ms. Lachlan mentioned. So that is one of the priorities that we know we have as a district. Conduct personnel recommendations to address repairs. As Ms. Lachlan mentioned, we have 2 individuals for the entire district. So looking at our expenditures and looking at our personnel, making a determination, can we add a part-time person? Can we add just a skill-based employee to do some of these repairs? I'm not speaking about the boilers, the roofs, the asphalt, the sidewalks, nothing like that. But some of the minor repairs that we can do, paint jobs, patching up walls. We have walls in classrooms, unfortunately. Repairs of even painting doors, things like that, just to improve the aesthetics of the building. Remember, kids are walking into our building, adults, parents, community members are walking into our building. It is a reflection of who we are as a community. If we're not taking care of our facilities, it is a poor reflection of who we are. So we are trying to look at ways that we could possibly employ someone to come in and do that kind of work.
Can I just add something to that too?
Yes,
How do
please.
students feel it? I know I work in the school, they painted over the summer, and walking into that school, I felt better. Students perform better when they're in an environment that makes them feel like they're welcome.
Agreed,
So,
agreed.
The community also has to remember that this is where our students spend their time. This is where they learn, this is where they grow, where they make those smiles and connections with, each other. And you want them to feel like they're at home.
And we want them to feel valued too. We want them to walk into a welcoming and affirming environment. It's, think about it, when you're at home and you have guests come over, you clean, you try to make your home as presentable as possible. We need to do that with all of our buildings. And so this is the work that we're trying to do to ensure that we have that. And sometimes it's just, once again, painting a wall. It's patching it up. It's ensuring that there is nothing in the halls in terms of boxes and things like that. So we are making a concerted effort to ensure that when students and parents walk into our buildings, that it is as best kept as possible, without the major repairs that we have. That we, like I said, some of them are cost prohibitive for us to do. And I mentioned this a moment ago, consider the possibility of the development of a future capital bond vote, because once again, there are certain items that we have to do that are just cost prohibitive within our budget. Any questions regarding? Okay.
That's a big number when we go to the ballot box, right?
The bond?
My taxes crested over 15,000 this year. So I'm just being honest, it's a giant hill.
It is.
Tuitions and every big bill.
It is.
So, always my advice, just be sensitive to prioritize.
Absolutely.
You do multiple bond votes, but you do one big whammy, and sometimes people like.
Yeah, that was suggested, but you just said the multiple.
You
Yes.
just try to do multiples.
It's easier.
And just, you can't eat the elephant in one bite, you just gotta start at the ear and
I
keep
agree.
chewing,
Agreed,
So
agreed.
what's the ear? Is it the boiler?
So we're looking at things that we definitely have to put up a more responsible. We know. The first bond we put up was $45 million.
Yeah.
We have a budget of $54 million. So to put to our community $100 million spend, maybe, yes.
It's a lot.
It is.
It's just real.
It is.
realities.
So we have to look at we have to prioritize the things that we need to get done immediately.
I
And-
think we have discussed that as a board
We did.
already, that what we think that is.
And sometimes the community says, maybe we sacrifice a want. Meaning so we have this amazing field next door, so why would we dump hundreds of thousands to another field? We have a field next door, let's get chairs and a boiler, and let's use the town field, or whatever.
Sure.
There's gotta be, a push and
That's a community side.
there's gotta be compromise.
Of course.
You can't have it all,
And
Because it just gets unaffordable, and then we can't have cable. Because
I totally.
not me, I'm okay, but people
but-
can't have cable.
It's about,
You think about cable's a couple $100,
It's a
$300 more, $400.
it's a valid point. We have to understand that we live in a blue collar community. And I live in the community. I love the community. I've lived there for many, many years. My wife's family grew up here. And we have to present something that's realistic, that is not a wish list. We're not going to present, I tell everyone in the community, we're not presenting a wish list. We're presenting things that we absolutely need when we get into that conversation. And that's going to be a long conversation with many, many stakeholders, many different viewpoints, many different voices will be part of that process. Because just exactly what you just said, we need to be mindful. Because
And I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
I
please,
no
it's
means
fine.
of complaining. by no means.
We did not,
You know,
it didn't come across that.
People don't realize, like, if you don't fix the chairs, you'll be replacing them, and then where do you get the budget for the replacement chairs?
Sure.
It's probably 800,000. So when you say I need 300 to fix the chairs, it seems like a giant thing, but it's probably half the cost of replacement.
Yep.
So we just gotta keep all that in mind, you know.
Agreed.
We gotta commit.
The reality is that we're all sitting here trying to manage what we can do best, right?
Yes.
And everybody has, one, it's volunteer, obviously, except for people that work for the district. Everybody has a skill set that they're trying to bring to the table. Many of us have volunteered in the community for years. There's nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Right? So when a big bond went out, of course the community was talking. Then they reduced it, right? And if you look at that bond from 45 years ago when it was put up, it was at $27 million. It was a very similar bond, 27 to 45 in a matter of 3 years, 4 years.
It was 2015.
That's the inflation, right?
Yeah.
So we do have to figure something out responsibly.
Yes.
We do have to have the conversation so that people that are on a fixed income and budget can get Hulu or cable, right? So at the end of the day, we take that. That is part of the conversations. We're not ashamed of certain things. I love Facebook, right? I'm not ashamed of certain things. No, I'm here to work, right? But I go to my real job too, so I can pay my bills, so I can pay the taxes here, so that we can do this, right? Those lines have to shift.
Yeah.
If we want to do it right, we do have to come together, figure it out, and move forward. Otherwise, in 5 years, it's going to be $64 million. So, and it's not like a game for us, but everybody's giving up their time. And I love the lines that we get towards, we don't take it personal because at the end of the day, everybody's working hard. But they also have to understand, we're not pulling out our wallets because we pay taxes, right? So we do have to figure out a way to make certain things happen. And that want versus need is 100%. When you look at boilers, that was what, 2022 was 1.4. This was a 1.4 item on the 2022 budget or bond. That's 2 of them, that's 2.8 technically, right? Roof, 1.5. Those are big items. We can't attack those, right? But we can attack the little things, right? And when we can attack the little things, we can present on them like we did tonight and say, hey, we are trying. It's not a lack of maintenance. We're trying, right? It's just a matter of how we can do it. So I think that's what the people have to understand too. And if they have, if you want to come, like, I love this conversation because you're 100% spot on. Come to these meetings, come to the facility meetings or the health and health and safety and the community connection. Talk to us on the ball fields. All of that stuff is vital because then we get perspective. We then bring it back. That's our job. Our job is to bring the voices back of the community to bring it forward, right? As a teacher, I tell my student council kids, if you're not in the room, I can't know your voice. If you're not in the conversation, I can't help your voice, right? So, Facebook can have 69 of the same conversations with 8 people, but at the end of the day, we need everybody here, right? Or we need people to help us make achievable goals as we're doing here so that we can move forward as a district. And I say that because, there's nothing to hide here on that. So we do want chairs that don't stick up at us because I love when my parents can sit in chairs that don't have cushions flying out of it.
Me too.
We all do, trust me. So, okay, 3 more. I'll try to get through them. The third goal is communication and community engagement. I think this goes hand in hand with exactly what we were just talking about. It reads the Board of Education devoted to developing trust and community support for our schools. We endeavor to enhance our current communication processes by creating uniform practices and expectations, transparency, reflective practices, and the engagement of multiple stakeholders will guide our decisions. So we're looking at it from the perspective of we want to collaborate with staff to fully implement Parent Square. We talked about that a moment ago. We are looking at Parent Square as a new communication medium. We did use ConnectEd. It did have some drawbacks. It had some limitations. Parent Square is a more comprehensive communication vehicle. We don't have it fully implemented yet. This is the pilot year. We are providing our teachers, our staff with professional development this year so that they feel comfortable with the process. We didn't just want to roll it out and not have 100% buy-in, 100% cooperation. So we are working with all of our staff, the CMTA, administrators, to ensure that we do what we need to do this year so that as of July 1st, it is our only communication method that we utilize in the district. So we are conducting a thorough review of the district website. We have received a lot of concerns, some complaints that sometimes our website is not very user-friendly. Sometimes the information is hard to find, you have to search for it. So one of the good things about Parent Square is that they develop and they host websites as well. So we are in the process of engaging into a contract with Parent Square so that they can redo our website and to make it a lot more user-friendly, make it a lot more comprehensive, and ensure that it's up to date. So we are looking at that now. I did put a tentative date of June, but I believe we might have that done by the end of January. So that'll be really good. So I will update that as well, to include January. Create uniform criteria, expectations for correspondence and programs. One of the things I did when I first came in is that I looked at some of the letterhead we all use. And for whatever reason, no fault of anyone, we all use different letters for whatever reason. So we have incorporated a uniform letterhead that all buildings use that is customized to their building. So that when you receive something as a parent, as a community member from Center Richard School District, you can recognize it immediately as coming from the district. We are doing the same thing with events. In terms of programs that we create for events, we're going to do that uniform across the district to ensure that they are uniform in terms of their format, in terms of the information that it contains, and that the look of it is professional and aligned to our expectations as a district. We are considering the development of a district-wide newsletter. It's something we've had in the past. We had district news. It is a way for us to communicate some of the highlights of what is happening within the district, maybe at a quarterly basis. We are in conversation with our PR firm to see how they can incorporate that, if they can do that, because they will create a true professional product in terms of not just the format of it, but the content as well. Of course, we as a district will be responsible for providing them with the content, providing them with the photos, but they will put it together in a comprehensive way and to make it look very professional.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
Sorry, you just jumped over the website. I just wanted to can you just elaborate a little bit on the process here? And
Sure.
who are the players involved and how are we going to be reviewing some of the metrics? And
Sure.
and when it comes to knowledge management, proper UX, going through that like learner journey, the user journey of like how they can get materials. So not just have you just walk us through a little bit of, because you said your deadline was January, so just.
It's on the deadline. I'm hoping we can have it complete by January, by the end of January.
Okay.
So we, and I say we, myself and Mr. Nofi and other administrators, we have had preliminary conversations with parents. The problem we have with the current PR system that we use, which is Syntax, they're getting out of the hosting of websites business. So they are no longer, after a year and a half, I believe, they are no longer going to be able to host a website. So we are obligated to find a new host for our website. Now, what Parent Square does, they have 10 pretty comprehensive templates. And I'm gonna just throw out there some school districts that they do currently support. Southampton, Southhold, you remember? Sag Harbor.
I'll tell you, there was a shift from a teacher standpoint. When I went to the website, it was a really cool shift to see how, I noticed the difference that from Parent Square to what we had previously. Basically, it was a nice platform.
My school too, Rocky Point.
Oh, Rocky Point, yes. So there are 10 templates that Parent Square has that we can choose from. From everything that I've heard from colleagues that I've spoken to, other superintendents, other administrators, teachers, they are very happy with their product. So in looking at how we're going to do that, they literally have to comb through our entire website and copy all of the content from our website and reproduce it onto a new website. They are going to give us an opportunity, Dawn, to review the content, to determine whether or not it's obsolete, if we want to update it, if it's something that is still of value, because there are things that we have to look through in terms of content for accuracy, and for relevancy. So we have to go through that process. But that is from beginning to end, that can be anywhere from a 4 to 5 month process. So it is a pretty lengthy process. They have to go through literally each page, copy it, and then duplicate it onto their website. Okay, you're very welcome. All right, we are going to continue to review our policy review. We are getting recommendations from NISBA in terms of our existing policy. So we are at the beginning of usually most board meetings, we have a policy committee. We review existing policies and recommendations that come from us from NISBA, which is New York State Board of School Board Association. They do create policy and they create recommendations that align with regulation and align with state laws that are applicable to every policy we have. This is something that Mr. Kennedy mentioned. When we have the conversation regarding committees, board committees, committees are created by the Board of Education. There are mandated committees that you have to have by state law, but a lot of committees are just created by charges of the board that they want to see in terms of initiatives that they want to push forward within the district. So one of the things we talked about is improving communications across the district, involving more stakeholders in the conversation, ensuring that we have different representation, different voices in our conversation to ensure that we're making comprehensive decisions that impact multiple stakeholders within our community. So we are creating a new committee called Community Connections. I'm going to chair it with the support of Mr. Kennedy and Ms. Solonsky, our board president. And we are looking at it from the perspective of inviting community members to look at our practices and ensure that we are having a conversation as to how to improve our practices and communication as a district as a whole. So our first meeting is tentatively scheduled for October 8th. The time is, we're still kind of up in the air, might be 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I'm not sure if 4 will work for everyone, but those are the two times that we normally have committee meetings. We have them at 4 o'clock to accommodate all of our teachers and staff that some of our staff don't necessarily live close, so they can stay and attend the meetings, and 6 o'clock, obviously, for those that, come home and at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and they can, run to a meeting.
Ricardo, on that one?
Yes.
Community connections, I think one of the measurables that would be nice to add would be a report sometime later in the year. What do the community members want to tell the board?
Okay.
What do they see? What would they like to see? What's going on? But I think having it in a written format, it goes beyond just a regular agenda from the meetings, because that varies from meeting to meeting.
So committee presentation.
They start to, well, it can be a presentation,
Okay.
sure.
Or just a
Start
report.
to put something together which is cohesive and says, these are the important messages that the community would like the board to hear. I think that would be a good way to put it around.
But I took that as that they were gonna be doing that like maybe every 3 months anyway. Like reporting to us on what the community, because to do a report towards the end of the year, don't you think, 10 months in later, that you give a report? Would you?
Well, community connections can go in many different fashions, right? And what I say by this is that it could be NYO there, they have 3 things that are up and coming that we can help communicate from our level down to the school. It could be things that we're working on within the school. So I agree, I think there's a measurable that we can figure out. I think we just have to figure out the language on how to help that, because if the fire department could be, hey, we need juniors, and that's part of community connection. Community connection can go anywhere, right?
And it doesn't just have to be groups, it can be any person in the community that just wants to come and discuss things.
But that's a good point. I just want to stress to the committee, every committee meeting that we have is open to the community. Everyone is welcome to it. We do try to get consistent members because we do send those consistent members agendas, we send them feedback, but all of our meetings are posted on our website, they're posted on our calendar, and everyone is welcome to attend. If you have any questions, please attend. All right. So there's a new legislation that is coming from the New York State Education Department, actually New York State legislation. Governor Hochul is creating what is called a student ex officio to be part of a Board of Education. And the purpose of it is to include student voice. It has to be a high school student. The district has to create criteria as to how to choose the person, which this particular goal, small goal, kind of speaks to what that process is going to look like, what criteria will we look at as a district. And the purpose of the student, like I said, is to add that student perspective and voice to the conversation. That student will not be part of exec, cannot vote on action items by the Board of Education, but is there as a voice. So we are looking, the law goes into effect July 1st, 2025. We will have the process done way before then in terms of the criteria, and we would choose someone so the student can participate as of July 1st.
Okay, so my question to you is, what grades are able to participate? Is that 9 through 12 or?
It's a high school student. It's 9 to 12.
9 through 12?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize the timeline here, right? Because I've heard a few comments already from the board that we'd like the students to pick who this is going to be, right? So when are elections? Spring, right?
We did them already, but spring. Springtime.
Right, for next year,
Mm-hmm.
the following year. So
You want,
by spring, we already have to have some kind of idea what are the students picking? How are they picking, right? I mean, if you really want this to be valuable, you want as broad an input from the student body as possible. So the students picks one person. It's really, I think, too big of an involvement for one student. First of all, time-wise, we've been sitting here already over an hour, and they have homework and activities and things like that. So there's that part of it, but also, how much can one person really have the pulse of the student body, right? So do they do a survey? Can one person really set up a survey? Are they going to put a Discord server up for the students to contribute ideas? I mean, in my mind, this is almost something like a group effort for the students. Right? Maybe it becomes a new club, student executive council or something.
And they all have
so they can
attend
the
it.
effort out. And also,
like
if
when I was a kid.
if it's something that is a group of students, that provides some continuity from year to year. So the ninth graders come in, they don't know what the board is doing. They don't know what the liaison, the student liaison does, but it gives them a chance to grow and learn if you have the older students there. So like I said, maybe it's a club, maybe it's working through student council or
I was just
I
gonna
think
say,
there are
that sounds
things to
very much
consider.
like student
but
council.
What are the hardest things?
Or they all are.
Well, one
They
person
can
would
rotate.
sit with the board,
Okay.
but they could have their own meetings where maybe they learn Robert's rules, right? They say, okay, these are the things we want you to present at the next board meeting.
Yeah.
It allows for a lot of student involvement.
So working with the internal structure that we have, like creating a new principal's cabinet almost takes away from student council because now you have two voices in the building that kids don't know which one is leading what. Right? So working within the student council realm and just maybe adding into their elections conversation that this group, any 9 through 12 person that is elected to class officer positions will have the opportunity to serve in group meetings with the Board of Education, potentially being picked as one. I don't know, I'm just blurting language out there, but that would give us our structure. And then what's good is that it allows them all to come. And then it's an open meeting for any kid to come in. So this door should always stay open. And then from there, that group can say, hey, we have a board meeting on October 25th. Who do you want to represent you that night that's put in the work? And like, if that meets the criteria, it can allow for a kid that would never sit in student council to potentially be in there.
That's what I like too, because a lot of the kids in student council is always the same kids, right? They do a lot of the things, so maybe it could be a student that doesn't have opportunities for leadership or something that they want to do it. But I understand working within the confines of, within the systems, but they do have other elections during the year. Like for Honor Society, they run elections and so forth.
And that can be delineated within the criteria that we create.
Right, yeah.
So we do have time to create it,
Yeah.
but I'm just putting it as part of the goals, but it is something that we have to report.
Well, we may want to sit down, involve the stakeholders. Obviously, we're going to have the students there. Is it student council? Is it open to all students? We're going to have the principals there. There's some time to sit down and think
It
about
does.
this.
Yeah.
We have to
Absolutely.
keep the timeline in mind.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely, agreed. All right. Goal number 4. The Board of Education is committed to the development of stronger budgetary practices to meet the needs of students at the Center Richards community. To short and long-term fiscal planning, we will enhance our programs, prepare for collective bargaining agreements, and ensure the stability of our facilities. And this is something that we kind of talked about throughout our conversation. One is review program expenditures, determine impact and data outcomes. This is something that we are looking at as an administrative team to make a determination as to what we're spending in terms of expenditures, in terms of program expenditures. What does the data show us in terms of the success of those programs? Is that something that we've done for years and unfortunately the data doesn't support the sustainability of that program? Should we move in a different direction? This is the process that we will engage in determining that. We have to negotiate the two largest units within our district right now, the teachers, the Center Richards Teachers Association. We did sign this year a one-year extension, which expires in June 30th of 2025. The same thing for administrators. Those are the two top units that we have. They are the two most costly units that we have. So we are now planning a calendar to begin negotiations and begin that conversation. Conduct a comprehensive 5 to 10 year fiscal forecasting. That is something that Ms. Laughlin is pretty much charged with, looking at what are we expected in terms of our expenditures, what are we spending, that comes with salary, that comes with benefits. We know that insurance rates keep increasing throughout the years. Right now, family plan, the cost of a family plan is $40,405. Teachers contribute 15% of that. The district absorbs 85%. That's about $32,000. It's a lot. It's projected to go up anywhere from 8 to 12% in January. That's another $4,400. That would increase to,
So my question,
$44,810. Yes, sir. Sorry, go ahead.
so my question to you is, so what does the administrators contribute?
Very good question. The administrators contribute, it depends on the administrator. There are some members that are grandfathered into an older contract, which is 15%. All of the new administrators to present here, their contribution rate is 32%.
Definitely have to work on that.
It's a very high contribution rate. Yep. And I'm giving the community all information that's readily available. All of our collective bargaining agreements are on our website. If you go to human resources, you can look at collective bargaining agreements. It's all outlined within the contracts. Okay. All right.
Ricardo?
Yes.
On fiscal responsibility, before we leave that one, we had discussed potentially reestablishing fiscal limits or fiscal targets. If we were to decide to do that, would that fit into one of these items, or is that a separate item?
When you say fiscal targets and fiscal limits, can you elaborate?
Well, so like in the past, it was a board goal that there were specific numbers set for year-to-year increase on the budget.
Okay.
I think it was 1.5% up to 2% under certain circumstances, and then if there was programmatic growth, then it can go up to 2.5%. So there are various levels of this.
I understand.
But basically, it was a message to the public that we understand the cost issues with the taxation. And I think that did convey the message quite well that we were aware of that. I think the public appreciated that we were trying to limit growth and taxation. And so we stopped that. Basically, it coincided with COVID. And basically said, all bets are off at this point. We can't try our hands this way. But now that's obviously in the past. So given a lot of the things that we've seen with bonds failing and having issues with our costs, I think it would probably be a time to reconsider that. And
we can. So
does that fit into one of our goals?
I think it can, and I think it fits more aligned with 4B, because I think that that's going to be a true indicator for us in terms of what does that look like for us. If we have a limit as to what we can spend, we have to set the limit in terms of what we're able to increase in terms of percentage salary increases, and what are we trying to get back from contribution rates and things like that. So give us, when I say, we give Carrie and I some time to really look at that, and then we could give you a more solid number as to what we think that would look like, because we have to do a cost analysis of these major contracts that we have to renegotiate within a year, and what is the cost analysis over the course of 5, 10, and 15 years. So because we're negotiating most likely a 5-year contract, but we have to project what is it going to cost the community in 10 years and in 15 years. Because we can't handcuff future Board of Education, future community members by, providing this luxurious contract that in future years we may not be able to afford.
And also looking at enrollment numbers and predictive analytics of what the future of our population is heading when we're looking at costs too, I think is important for us to evaluate.
It is. So we've seen a decline over the last 10 years.
Right.
We went from centimeters in terms of enrollment, student enrollment, from 1650 to right now about 1525. It's been pretty consistent over the last 5 years in terms of enrollment. So we are looking at how that is going to fluctuate. If it's going to fluctuate, our population the demographics of our population has fluctuated significantly throughout the last 10, 15 years. So that is a factor as well.
We could probably build that into 4C, because when you build your Excel sheet or Google sheet or whatever you're using, that's gonna fly right in there
Yes,
with the
it is.
numbers. Because once you put everything in, it should scale over and do the numbers almost automatically.
It should.
So 4C is probably where you're looking.
Good point. Last one. So the fifth goal is social emotional learning, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Utilizing the district's mission statement, our equity and education plan policy, the Board of Education is devoted to continuing to create procedures that support the social and emotional learning of students and equitable practices while ensuring that these processes continue to align with our instructional program and fiscal responsibility. So we are committed as a district to continue to encourage diversity, equity, and inclusivity principles that increase cultural diversity in the classroom. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. We are looking at continuing our professional development efforts to ensuring that every classroom is a safe, affirming environment for all students, that students see themselves represented in the class, represented in the curriculum, because it is important, and giving students the opportunity to face diverse perspectives, because that is how we create well-rounded students that are prepared for life outside of Center Richard School District.
Can we include in there and
Yes.
foster unity, like as part of that goal?
Sure.
Because I feel like it's good that people are diverse and can come from a diverse background or culture or beliefs or whatever, but at the end of the day, like we all are united. I think that that's a really important part of it. And our differences or diversities really can be helpful to one another, and just kind of foster that mindset as well. Like let's do all this together.
The unification of our society and our student body and staff. Yes, go ahead.
And I'd like to add an additional component in here. I know sometimes people say DEI, but I also as I mentioned to you, you could do DEI, JA, there's additional acronyms that you could add in there, but especially concerned about the population of students with disabilities and neurodivergent learners as well.
Sure.
And sometimes we don't always reflect that. So if there's something in there and that can relate to the professional development of teachers and administrators and the way that we treat children,
And it does. So the work of DEI,
but written down here.
and I can include it. The work of DEI is inclusive of everything. It's not just inclusive of race, ethnicity, it's inclusive of religion, it's inclusive of ability, it's inclusive of all differences that unite students, and to give them an understanding, and I don't like to use acceptance, just an understanding of the benefits and the strengths that students present with. So all of that is all part of it. So when I conduct the work of DEI, I'm not necessarily, and I try to get away from the conversation of race and ethnicity, because it's way broader than just that. We're looking at gender identification. We're looking at every component that is inclusive and ensuring that every student and staff member feels welcome and included in our environment. That is DEI. DEI sometimes gets tainted by looking at just race and ethnicity. That's not the work that we do. That's not the work of DEI. So thank you for that, but that is something that we've incorporated throughout the years. Samsina's been a part of it, Lauren's been a part of it, most of you have been a part of it. 5B, only a few more. Conduct a comprehensive review of our current expenditure items concerning SEL and DEI efforts to determine impact, cost, and support. Once again, goes back with the same thing in terms of academics, looking at everything we do in the area of social emotional learning, everything we do in the area of DEI, to ensure that it's impactful, that it's making a difference in the lives of our kids. That's what we're doing. That's why we're here. We're here to make a difference in the lives of our kids and make a difference in the lives of our parents and our community, to make our community a better place. So that's something we're going to be looking at. And the last one, wait, is this the last one?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, the last one, continue to support the social emotional learning for students. And once again, continuing some of the work that we're doing in terms of SEL professional development, mental health, first aid training, ensuring that our teachers and staff are prepared to identify, address, and assist students that do come into their classroom with some social emotional difficulties, and support them, and make sure that we have the system in place, the support system in place to ensure that our students receive the correct identification, deterrence, and support that they need. And the parents also ensuring that we have that communication with parents and we're steering them in the right direction to ensure that they find the support internally and externally for all the support mechanisms that exist within Suffolk County. Right, that was
Thank you.
my
Thank
presentation.
you.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from anyone?
I think we answered
Yes.
that one.
Do you see any differences to public schools, homeschooling? I've been hearing little buzzes about
personally-
increases in homeschooling. Is that something you?
I personally, because when you look at the school environment, we do a couple of things, not just the academics, but the socialization components that you have to consider as well. So when you homeschool a child, you could present them with the greatest instructional environment that you can. And you could try to expose them to opportunities to increase their socialization skills, but it's very different when you're walking around a building of 500 kids. So I mean, that's the piece that, once again, I commend any parent that has the resources, has the skill set to incorporate a comprehensive homeschooling environment that factors into the socialization component. But I think we do a good job. And I welcome
don't
everyone.
think that. No.
So
I only asked, as you mentioned, 50 something or whatnot to 1,500. So
yeah, but it's a reduction in population across 7 villages.
that's what I did. You
Yeah, no, it is.
study to see it's less.
Yeah, it is a reduction in population. It's not a reduction because of homeschooling.
Straight.
I'm gonna be honest with everyone, we have a small segment of our population that do choose to homeschool.
It's very small.
It is very small. It is very small.
But you still hear of it.
You do,
I don't
you
see
do.
it now.
And once again, I commend any parent that has the resources, has the skill set to incorporate that program into their home or to another, external environment. But I do believe, I have a lot of trust in my teachers and our administrators. We have a great supportive board, as you heard this evening, in terms of their contribution, their communication. So I think we as a district are going in a really, really positive, good direction. And I would want all of our students to come to us. Any other questions before we close? Board? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that leads us to questions and comments regarding tonight's agenda only. I hope we covered everything. Good, okay. So donations. We resolve that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education accepts the following donations. 25 backpacks from Seatuck School Rotary. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion?
So, yes, so I definitely would like to take a moment to thank Seco Rotary for their donation of the 25 backpacks. It is something that our students will utilize. We do have a segment of our population that is obviously in need of it. So any donations that we receive from the community is very helpful. We are very appreciative of it, so thank you to CECO for that donation. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
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 Consent agenda approval. Be it resolved, the motion to approve the consent agenda items 8A through 12B. Can I get a motion? Oh, 12A, sorry. Can I get a motion? Marcus, motion, okay, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Discussion? No. Okay. General public comment. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say?
Let's go back out.
Informational items. Our next meeting is Wednesday, October 16th, here in the high school library at 7 p.m.
It's Board Appreciation Week, in case anybody else wants to come appreciate that day.
I can say it because I'm up.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Again,
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Are you not supposed to?